Um, Welcome everyone to today's tutorial. In today's tutorial, we are going to be building a pixel editor in C++. Uh, Let me just run it and show you what I'm actually talking about. So if I run the program, you should see something like XDL pixel drawing. So you would be seeing a white plain surface where you can draw with your cursor, your mouse, and so anyways, this is what we're going to be doing today. So I'm quickly going to start. I'm going to go into a new directory called program, and I will be using micro as my text editor. So I would say micro pixel.cpp. So now let me increase my font. Okay, so the first thing you'd want to do is you would want to include SDL as include SDL2 slash SDL dot h. Okay, so as include SDL2. Then we'll start by creating our main function, return 0. So now we would want to define some environmental variables like our Windows position, our screen height and width. So we'll say as define screen define screen width, and let's set it to 640 for now, and let's define our screen height. Okay, screen width and height. We'll set our height to 480, and we would want to define our ink size. So we'd say define ink size, and we can set our ink size to 5 for now, and we would want to define our Windows position. So we'll use a constant. So we'll say const int, or we can just call it Windows pose, and we'll set it to SDL SDL window pose undefined, and also define our flag. So we'll say const int flag, and we can set it to SDL window shown. Okay, so I think that's all. Then we would have to go into our main program, and we'll start by initializing SDL. So we'll start by initializing SDL. So we'll say SDL init and SDL. We will initialize only the video subsystem because that's all we're going to be using. And we would want to create some external variables. Uh, let's say global variables. So these variables will handle our texture, our window, and our renderer. So we'd say uh, SDL, and we can just set it to null. I'm going to duplicate. So we'll create for our renderer. And lastly, we would create for our texture. All right, so I think this will be all. Then we'll go back to our main function and we are going to call our window variable. So we'd say window is equal to SDL underscore create window. So the first thing we want to pass in, we'll pass in our title. So our window title, we can call it anything. We can just say pixel. Let's say pixel editor as our title. Then now we would want to pass in our window position. So uh which is this Windows pose. So we just say win pose and win pose for our X and Y. So next thing we want to pass in is we want to pass in our width and height. And okay, so we want to pass in our width and height. So we would say screen width. And I'm going to decrease my font because I'm going outside of the screen. So I hope you can still see properly. So we'll say screen width and screen height. And the last thing will be our flag. So we'll just say flag. And this is our flag variable here. So with all this setup, our window has been properly created. So next thing we want to create is we want to create a renderer. So we'll say we would want to create a renderer. So we'll say our renderer variable. So we'll say renderer is equal to SDL, and let me increase my fonts back. So SDL create renderer, and we're going to pass in our window. So this our window, we're going to pass in window because we want to create the renderer at our window. Then for our graphics card drivers, we'll just put -1. Then for our renderer flag, there are different kinds of renderer flag. We can use SDL renderer accelerated, SDL renderer vsync. But I'm just going to put 0, and I think 0 is for renderer accelerated. So, and next we would want to create is, and okay, we would want to clean up because if you initialize SDL, you don't want to destroy the resources. That's to free memory and to clean up the program for running in the background. So in our cleanup, we would want to uh, SDL destroy. I think renderer first. SDL destroy renderer. Then we'll pass in our renderer variable, and we'll want to destroy our window. So we'll change it to SDL destroy window. And the last thing we want to do is we want to do SDL quit. So we would say SDL quit, and this should do the job. Then I'm going to quickly run it and see if it works. So uh, G++ pixel.cpp dash o, then I'll just say pixel and my SDL flag. So you can actually see that it works. And if I actually run it, you would see Uh, okay, I don't think you can see anything yet. Let me add a delay. So if I add a delay of, let's say, SDL. So if I add a delay so of, let's say, 1 second, which is, so if I add a delay of 1 second, and it's loading. Okay, I have an error. I forgot a semicolon. Okay, so you can actually see that it is there for 1 second before it actually closes. So I'm going to go back to my program and I will remove the delay for now. So we are going to continue. Let me just remove the delay because we will not be using it. And so the next thing we want to create is we want to create a texture, our SDL texture. So we would say texture is equal to SDL create texture. Uh, Now we want to create the texture at our renderer. So SDL create texture renderer. Then we'll say XDL pixel format. XDL pixel format ARGB 888. That's I think 48. Then we would want to say SDL texture access static. Texture access static. And then let me reduce the font so I can see properly. So now we would want to pass in our screen width and height. So we'd say screen width. Okay, sorry. Okay, so we'd want to pass in our screen width and our screen height. So we'd want to pass in our screen width and height. Then SDL texture access. Okay, I think everything looks good. I think there are no errors here. Now, also remember to destroy the texture. So we'd see SDL destroy texture, and we'll pass in our texture variable. Okay, so we would go back to our main program. We would want to allocate memory for our pixel array. So I would say allocate memory for pixel buffer. So this will allocate memory for our pixel buffer, and we are going to use a uint 32. Yeah, uint 32, then a pointer to a pixel variable, and we'll say new. And our array would say screen width and times our screen height. So and We would also get the size of, using the size of operator, our u int 32. Uh, oh, I think no. This would not come in here. So I think this is what we'll be doing. Equals to u int 32. Then our semicolon. Then we'll use our memory set function. So we'll say mem set uh open bracket our pixel, mem set pixels 255, then our size of operator, then we'll pass in our screen width and height. So I'm just going to copy it from here. So I'll just copy it, Ctrl C, and I think this is all, and this should actually looks good. Screen width, screen height, size of. Okay, so I'm going to add a semicolon. So now with this done, we have done like 50% of the job. So now next thing we want to do is we want to create our program loop. So we'll define some variables, like define variables like our bool. We'll say bool quit, and we'll set it to false. So we'll say bool quit is equals to false, and we'll also set SDL event. So we'll say SDL event as our event variable. So now, in our program, we would create a main program loop. So we'll say while not quit. So we'll say while not quit, and we so now inside our while loop, we would want to get SDL event. So we'll say SDL poll event, or let's use SDL wait event. So we'll say SDL wait event. Wait event is less CPU intensive compared to get event. So we'd use SDL wait event and add to pass the memory address of our event. And then we would use a switch statement to check the event type. So we'd say switch event dot type, and so I would say let me increase my font. Okay, so we'll say switch event dot type. So we'll say case if it is equal to SDL quit. If it is equal to SDL quit, we're going to set our quit variable, which is this variable. We're going to set our quit variable to true. So that's if the user want to quit the program. So I'm going to delete all these. I made simple typing mistake. So we'll say quit will be equal to true. So that's if the user wants to quit the program, then we'll say break. So if I would save it and I'll quickly run it and see. Okay, I made a mistake, so I'll just go and correct it. Uh, my texture, it is supposed to be small letter T, not capital letter. So, and where did I call my texture? Oh, and uh my texture should actually be before my program. So I'm going to copy my texture. It's supposed to be before the while loop. So I'll just say Control X and I will paste it immediately after creating my renderer. So after I created my renderer, I would put my texture there. Okay, so after creating render, I would say texture, create texture. Okay, so uh, yeah, not bad. So I would save it and I will run it again. And let's see. Okay, so it runs properly. Uh, so you can actually see my window until I click on the quit. That's when the program is going to exit. So I'm going to go back to my pixel editor. I would continue coding. Now, after that, the next thing we'd want to do is inside our while loop, but outside our switch statement, that's before our switch statement, we are going to start rendering our properties. So we'd say, please remember outside our switch statement. So we'd say SDL update XDL update texture. Uh, XDL update texture, our texture variable, and we'll set here to null, and we'll pass in our pixel variable. We'll say pixels, then we'll pass in our screen width. All right, then we'll times it the size of by the size of uint32, and we want to clear our renderer. So we'll say SDL render clear. So this will clear our renderer and we'll pass in our renderer variable. Okay, so we'll pass in our renderer variable. And we would also want to uh, render copy. So we'd say SDL render copy. So we want to copy our texture onto our renderer. So we'd say renderer, then we'll copy from our texture and we'll set here to null and here to null as well. Don't forget a semicolon. And then we'll present our renderer. So we'll say SDL renderer present, renderer present. So this will actually present our renderer and we'll pass in our renderer variable. And don't forget the semicolon. So now let's see if the program runs as well. If there are any errors, I will compile. Okay, it's supposed to be render, not renderer. So uh, I made a mistake. Okay, now let's see again. Okay, uh, and did not spell my renderer properly. So I think this is all. I'll compile again and okay, I think uh in our update texture function there is no parentheses here. We are actually passing our screen width to a pointer to the size of. So there would be no there will be no comma here. So there will be no comma. It will be screen width, a pointer variable, a pointer to our size of variable. So let me run the program again, compile, and if I run it, oh, I'm going to compile again. And so you should see a white, and you should see our white uh, background. Nothing works as of now. We have not configured our mouse. So we would go back to our to our program, and so we would go back to our program. We would want to add a pull event to check for our mouse click. So inside our switch statement, we are going to add another case. So this time we would say case, and I would say case SDL mouse button up. Case SDL mouse button SDL. Now we would use an if statement. So we'd say if event event dot type no, if event dot button dot is equal to SDL button left, and so now we're going to create a variable called left mouse button. So here we can create the variable here. We can say we can use bool. So we'll say bool left mouse left mouse button. Let's say down, and we'll set it to false for now. And then we will go back. Then would say if then so if this condition is true, event dot button is equals to button left, and we would want to set our left mouse button. So we'd say left mouse button down. You will set it to false, our left mouse button down. That's if that is equal to button left, if we are left clicking on our mouse, and then we would break. And I think we can actually do without adding a parenthesis. So let's just break. Let's see if it compiles. Okay, it's compiled, so we actually don't really need to add a parenthesis to our break. So we'll continue, and we want to check for another condition. So we'll say case if SDL mouse button down. Earlier we checked for mouse button up. Now we're going to check for uh so it's just paste it here, Ctrl V, and this time we'll say mouse button down. So case SDL mouse button down, and I would say if event dot button dot button is equal to SDL button left. Alright, so we'll say if it is equal to SDL button left. Now we'll come beneath it and we'll set our left mouse button. Left mouse. Our left mouse button down. We'll set to true. Left mouse button down. And we'll say true. So if we are clicking on the mouse button downwards, we'll set our left mouse button to be true. And we are going to add break, and we'll say break. And then lastly, we want to check for our if our mouse is in motion. So we'll say case SDL mouse motion. SDL mouse motion, and we would check if our left mouse. So we'll say if event dot button dot button, if it is equal to our SDL left button. Oh no, we'll just I think we'll just like pass in our variable left mouse. So we'll just pass in our left mouse button. Okay, so if the SDL mouse is on motion, we're just passing our left mouse button. I'm going to create an int mouse x to carry the x coordinates. I would say event dot motion dot x and semicolon. I'll just control D. So whatever we do for the x variable, we'll do for the y variable also. So I'll change it to y, capital letter Y, and then we would want to adjust pixel in a square around the mouse position. So we want to create our pixel uh, adjust pixel in a square around around mouse position. So we are going to use a for loop. So we'd say uh int int x will be equal to our mouse at x. I think we are going to start with the y first. So we'd say for int y equal to our mouse at y. Then plus our ink size over 2, and then we are going to increment our y. Then we'll create another nested for loop, and this nested for loop will be for our int x. So whatever we did for the y, we'll do for the x also. We'll say mouse at x, subtract our ink size, and subtract our ink size over 2. Our max at x plus ink size. Alright, so, and before we can finally add our conditions, so we would say if x is greater than or equal to 0. Okay, so we'll say if x is greater than or equal to 0, and x is less than our screen size, our screen is less than our screen width. And we'll also check for the y too. So we'll say and y is greater than or equal to 0, and y is less than our screen height. I is less than our screen height. And then we are going to render the pixels onto the screen. So we are going to say pixels y multiplied by our screen width, then plus the value of x, and we'll set the array equal to 0. So this is actually making reference, okay? This is actually making reference to our pixel array, and we'll reset the value to 0. So always remember to add a semicolon. Then we'll finally add our break. All these are our switch statements. So we'll finally add our break, and I think we'll add our break here. I think our break should come in here. So we're going to say break, and we're going to see if it runs. We're going to compile it. Okay, I think we made some errors. Uh, we, we used capital letter Y instead of small letter y, so line 50 and line 48. So if we go over to line 50 and our line 48, I think our variable was left mouse down, uh, Control C, and Control V. So I'm going to save it and I'm going to compile it again and see if it runs this time. Okay, it's compiled, and let me run the program. So let's see if everything works. So you can see our pixel editor has been properly set up. Everything runs fine and smooth. Let me run it again and try to write something meaningful. Let's say uh, so you can actually say pixel, and you can increase the size of the pixel, the ink size. If it is too bold, you can always choose to decrease it or increase it. And I think that's it. So I would leave the source code, a link to the source code in the description below. It will be on my GitHub. And if you want to follow along the program, I created a PDF of the detailed steps of creating a program. So I would also leave the PDF so you can actually download it. That's if you want to make reference to the PDF. And all the steps are in details. In less than, I think, 70 lines of code, you should be done. I will leave everything in the description below. Please do not forget to join the Discord server. Uh, the Discord server in the description, very, very important. And stay tuned for upcoming tutorials. And thank you for staying till the end.